Alberto Camargo for NCAA Digital, here to make my picks for the 2022 D1 Women's Soccer Championship. We're not going to go game by game, or I would talk myself in circles, but I will be highlighting some interesting matchups in each region, as well as talking through some of the tougher decisions I had to make. Here's a look at the 64-team field in full. We're going to dive into each quadrant of the bracket one at a time, picking winners until I've got my picks to make the 2022 Women's College Cup and carry North Carolina. Starting in the top left section of the bracket, Florida State is in an identical position to last season as a number 1 national seed. I see them meeting Georgetown in the third round, where I think the Hoyas can give them a real test. Georgetown has lost just once all season and is one of the country's toughest defenses to break down. But ultimately, I think this side of the bracket will be mostly chalk, setting up a 1-2 showdown in the quarterfinals between the Seminoles and St. Louis that pits the country's highest scoring offense against the defending champs. Here's the first game that I really struggled to pick, as the Billikens have also lost just once at the hands of an ACC juggernaut, but I think it happens again. I've got the Seminoles returning to the College Cup. Moving to the section just below, where there are a couple of intriguing rematches taking place in the first round. 6-seed BYU hosts Utah Valley, and 8-seed Santa Clara hosts California. I was tempted to go with both unseeded teams here, as they both won these matchups in the regular season, but I think the Cougars and the Broncos avenged their losses. Speaking of avoiding upsets, North Carolina was infamously bounced in the first round of the NCAA tournament last season, but I think they're primed to make another deep run in the tournament this year. It's been 10 years since the Tar Heels last won it all, and I think that team is desperate to return UNC to its former glory. On the other side of this section, I think Big Ten darlings Michigan State will reach the third round for the first time in program history, but run into the buzzsaw that is Notre Dame. This sets up the one ACC showdown we didn't get in the regular season or conference tournament, North Carolina versus Notre Dame. It's a blockbuster matchup that I think will go the Tar Heels' way and send them back to the College Cup. On the other side of the bracket, we've got number 1 national seed Alabama. I did not think I'd be saying those words back in August. I think the Crimson Tide will be meeting Southern Cal in the third round, where there's a real opportunity for an upset, but I see the Tide squeezing through in a very close game. On the opposite side of this section, I think there are 3 teams who could meet Alabama in the quarterfinals in South Carolina, Texas, and Duke. I see the Blue Devils getting past the Longhorns in the second round, but dropping their next game to the Gamecocks, setting up a rematch of the SEC tournament final between Bama and South Carolina. With each team having beaten the other once already, I think this rubber match will go the Tide's way, sending them to the College Cup for the first time in school history. The final section of the bracket features a few early round upsets, but I think the overall quality of the top 4 seeds here means they will snuff out any magical runs by the third round. I think we'll see a fascinating showdown in the quarterfinals between UCLA and Virginia. The Bruins have been touted as the number 1 team in the country since their wins over North Carolina and Duke in September, and the Bruins receiving a number 1 seed despite losing the Pac-12 to Stanford on the final day of the season shows how highly the committee still thought of them. The Cavaliers also beat both UNC and Duke in the regular season though, and I know Virginia and UCLA will both be hungry to make a run to the College Cup after falling short of conference titles. In the end though, I see the Bruins returning to the Tar Heel State, this time as semi-finalists. So here's my final 4. Florida State, North Carolina, Alabama, and UCLA. I think we'll get a third and decisive match between the Seminoles and Tar Heels, where I think North Carolina will emerge victorious. In the other semifinal, I'm riding with the Bruins, setting up yet another rematch in this tournament between UCLA and UNC, this time for all the marbles. In the end, I've got the Tar Heels winning their 22nd national championship, a full decade since their last. So yes, I'm sticking with my midseason pick, though the amount of national title contenders in this field really tested my resolve. Here's a look at my bracket picks in full for the 2022 D1 Women's Soccer Championship. Make sure to keep coming back to NCAA.com for full coverage of the tournament all the way through the College Cup.